Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Off the Bench podcast. My name is Robert Sellers. I'm coming to you from Birmingham, Alabama, in my grandparents' basement, which is where I'm staying for the next couple nights. So that's where you're going to get the podcast. I like the brick wall behind me. I think it's a nice little aesthetic. You might hear some noises. You might hear some ticking of clocks. It's an old basement, so just bear with us today, as the setting has changed for this episode. But I'm coming at you following another exciting weekend of college football, Week 13 action, of course. Not as exciting as some other weeks. I know it's the SEC's fault. It's ridiculous. Dan Lanning took a shot at the SEC today after his win over USC. He said, "You know what? We actually went out and competed. We didn't play Chattanooga State." And that's true. I cannot wait until next year when the 9-game conference schedule is all situated, because we're not going to have to deal with this ridiculous week where Alabama is playing Eastern Illinois, where Georgia is playing Charlotte, and it just sucks the wind out of everything. But I'm not going to talk about that for much too long, because we have a lot of interesting games to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about. There were some wild endings this weekend from random games that I didn't even think were going to be close. A couple teams got some big wins. A couple of teams got wins that nobody's talking about, and I think they should be. And then we're going to preview next week, rivalry week in college football, which should be spectacular. I cannot wait for next week. It is going to be so much better than this week, and a lot of stuff is going to be decided. So we're really excited about that, but we're focusing right now on this week's action, on what just happened this college football Saturday. And every single Instant Reactions podcast, we always lead with the most pressing story, the biggest story from the weekend. In my opinion, that was Oregon taking down the USC Trojans 42-27 at home. This was the biggest win of the year for the Oregon Ducks, in my opinion. I don't think it's very close. I mean, the Iowa win was pretty good. The Penn State win was great. But I think this is by far the best team that USC, or the best team that Oregon has played this year, other than Indiana, and they did get the win. So shout out to the Ducks. To me, the most impressive part of this win for Oregon was their offensive line. I think that when they played against USC a couple weeks ago, to me, that was going to be sort of where I could tell where their offensive line was at. It was a good Iowa team. They really like to dominate the line of scrimmage, and Oregon went in there and tore them up. They ran the ball for like over 250 yards. They controlled the game. They played great. And they did that again this game against USC. Of course, Lincoln Riley teams are known for being very physical, and especially against stopping the run. But they've been better this year. But Oregon went in here, and they ran the ball for 179 yards. They controlled the game. And if you can control the game on the ground, it gives you such an advantage, and it gives you a great chance to win football games. What I think about Oregon, what I think makes their rushing attack so good, is they have a three-headed monster. Like, they don't just rely on one guy. They got Noah Whittington, they got Jordan Davison, and they got Dyer Hill Jr., I think is how you pronounce that name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. But it's not just one running back that's really good that makes this offensive rushing attack churn. It's the offensive line, it's the depth at the running back position, and it's just the consistency that this rushing attack operates at. I mean, they didn't have a run longer than 20 yards in this game. It's not like they got 179 rushing yards because they had a couple explosive runs. They weren't very explosive at all, but they were just consistent. I mean, between those three running backs that I mentioned, they averaged a little over 5 yards a carry. And it's not like like I said, they weren't popping off 20-plus yard runs. They were just consistent in the run game. And when you can be consistent in the run game, it's tough to stop your offense. I think that really opens up a lot for Dante Moore too. I mean, Dante Moore was really good in this game statistically. You look at it, he was 22 of 30, great completion percentage, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a bad interception, but to me, most of the yards that Dante Moore had, he had a couple laser throws in this game. The touchdown to Sadiq was a absolute rope, and he had a couple more throws like that were really phenomenal. But to me, most of Dante Moore's production came off play action. It came off screen passes. It came off extensions of the run that were set up because the run was being so consistent. And, I mean, if I look at Dante Moore, I think he's a very skilled player. I think he's a great football player. I think he has a lot of room to grow. But I don't think he has elite, consistent arm talent yet. I've seen him make NFL throws, don't get me wrong. I don't know if I think he's as consistent as some other guys in this league, but he's still great. And if you can give him time, which Oregon's offensive line did, he dropped back 30 times and was sacked 0 times. This is one of the best offensive lines in the country. And I had my doubts. Following the Indiana game, I really had my doubts about this offensive line. But the way they've looked against the rest of the Big Ten teams they've played this year has been phenomenal. So I'm going to trust that. I'm just going to say that Indiana's linebackers are something just abnormal, and I think they are. I think that's why they slowed this team down. But I do think this Oregon team is really good. That's what I think of them offensively. And another credit to them offensively, they were without DeCorian Moore this game. They've been without him for a while. They've been without Gary Bryant for a while. Of course, they haven't even had Evan Stewart this year. So those are three of their top weapons that just they've been down. They haven't been there to help Dante Moore. They haven't been there to help the explosivity of this Oregon offense. I don't know if that's a word. But without them, I mean, Sadiq the Freak is out here balling. 6 catches, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's a freak. Sadiq the Freak is true. It's a true statement. I mean, he hurdles guys. He high points footballs. He'll outrun you. He's great after the catch. He's the best weapon on this team. He's the best. He's one of the best tight ends in the country. I think Eli Raridan on Notre Dame is one of the best tight ends in the country too. Sadiq and him, I mean, Sadiq's more raw talented and more athletic. He's more like 7 from Texas Tech. I can never remember that guy's name. But Kenyon Sadiq is just a baller. If you didn't know that before, you know it now. He's something else. And shout out Malik Benson too. Malik Benson, 4 catches, 67 yards. He made plays. I mean, of course, he transferred over from Alabama a couple years ago. He was at Alabama when Nick Saban was there, sort of the last Saban year, and he didn't really do very much. He wasn't very consistent. Transferred to Oregon, and it sort of unlocked his game, especially when his top 2 receivers have gone down. He's been able to step up and make plays. So this Oregon, if Oregon could get a fully healthy receiving room with DeCorian Moore and Evan Stewart coming back, plus this consistent run game, plus Sadiq the Freak, plus Dante Moore's legs, Oregon put up 42 against USC. I know USC's defense isn't all that, but that's an impressive performance. I think this Oregon offense could definitely be scary when they get to full strength. How about the coaching? This was a very well-coached game from this Oregon offensive staff. I think most of the Oregon staff is elite on the defensive side of the ball. That's sort of what they've prided themselves on since Dan Lanning's got there. And they've been great on that half of the playing field. But they started this game. They had a game plan. They went out and they knew what they were going to do, and they executed. They scored touchdowns on their first 2 drives and then punted and then scored a touchdown on their next drive I think they scored on 3 of their 4 offensive possessions in the first half. So they had a script and they 100% executed on it. And these weren't short drives either. The first one was only 6 plays, but after that, 11-play touchdown drive, 12-play touchdown drive, and then the end of the half. So I was really impressed with what I saw from Oregon offensively. I had my doubts 100% going into this game. I really thought about picking USC. I was leaning more Oregon, and I didn't get a video out on this game because I was really busy this week. But heck of a win for Oregon, especially offensively. Defensively, their front 7 really showed up. It's been showing up all year, but it really did in this game. I talked about USC, or at least I wrote this down, that USC's offense, I mean, it's first in the Big Ten in passing yards per game, which is it's nearly at 300 passing yards per game. And they achieved that again today. They had 330 yards passing. But I think what really unlocks this offense and gives it flow is the USC run game. And Oregon completely eliminated that pretty much. They stuffed USC's run game. They only had 52 yards on the ground, averaged 1.9 yards per carry. So I think that where the passing offense is USC's body, the rushing offense is its wings. That sort of makes it take off. And Oregon took away their wings. And without their wings, USC could not fly. And I think that is why they really struggled to score throughout the game. I think Mateo Uyagalele had a huge game. He was a big part of why that run game didn't work out. He had 7 total tackles. He had the 1 sack fumble. Nearly had the sack, the forced fumble, and the fumble recovery, but USC jumped back on it. That would have been a great play. And it still was a great play, but it would have been even better of a play. So I was really impressed with the front 7 for Oregon. Their secondary, it got tested. Of course, it hasn't really been tested yet. They haven't really gone up against elite wide receivers. They did against Indiana, and they kind of got torched. Surratt and Omar Cooper balled out in that game. And Mekhi Levin and Ja'Cory Lane were pretty good in this game too. Or is it Jacoby Lane? I always forget. It's Jacoby Lane. I always mess that up. Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Levin combined for 13 catches, I got to check with the math department, 140 yards, 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 140 yards 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not to mention Tanuk Hines, who went out and had a 51-yard touchdown reception. So the Oregon corners and the safeties, to me, I think they play a lot of cover 3. They play a lot of quarter, half. I don't know if I love the coverage. I think their safeties especially kind of get caught cheating a little bit. But we'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. And I just want to give it a quick tribute to USC. I love this USC Trojans team. I thought this Trojans team was awesome. I think Lincoln Riley loved this USC team, maybe more than he's loved any USC team that he's coached. And if you don't believe me, just watch the Iowa game. At the end of it, he got so hyped. He got so emotional. I love watching college football coaches get emotional about their teams, whether it's Kalen DeBoer slapping the goalposts or James Franklin whenever he would get emotional on the sidelines. That would be awesome. I loved watching the Brian Kelly press conferences. I thought those were historic. I loved them. And after USC beat Iowa last week, Lincoln Riley got so pumped up. And I was like, let's go, Lincoln Riley. Yes, sir. So I really like this USC team. Their offense was dynamic. It was really fun to watch. Makai Lemon, in my opinion, is still having the best year that any wide receiver has had this season. He also had a passing touchdown in this game, which is kind of funny. But they are now pretty much officially eliminated from playoff contention. I mean, there's pretty much no way they're going to get in. They're 8-3. Everybody in front of them would have to somehow lose for that to happen. So their really fun season is now officially over. I still think they're a good team. It's just, once again, their defense was not up to snuff. I mean, think about it. Against Illinois, they couldn't tackle. Lost that game because of that. Their offense played pretty good. Against Notre Dame, their defense that they got ran on for like 280 yards against Notre Dame or something like that. Couldn't get off the field. That's why they lost that game. And then they just gave up 42 points to Oregon. So, once again, their offense was elite. Defense didn't cut it. That's literally just the story of Lincoln Riley right there. And USC, unfortunately, has fallen short of the playoffs. Oregon, by the way, people are going to say, oh, there you go, Oregon. They're locked into the playoffs. Seal them in. There it is. That's just not true. Like, there are so many teams that people are saying, like, locked into the playoffs, that they are just obviously, to me, not all the way there yet. Like, Oregon still has to play at Washington. Washington hates Oregon. Like, Oregon's main rival is Washington. Washington's main rival is Oregon. Like, they really don't like each other. And that game is on the road on Saturday in Washington. It's not easy to play. Washington does not lose at home very often. That's a big game. Like, I'm just telling you right now, Oregon has not won at Washington in a while. So, I'm just putting it out there. I'm putting it out there that Oregon is 100% on upset alert this week at Washington. They could go into the Husky Stadium and lose that game by 2 touchdowns. And then are they making the playoffs? I don't know. They could still make the playoffs, but they also could not. I'm just saying, Oregon is not 100% in yet. But this was a huge, huge win. If they lost this game, they probably weren't 100% out. So, big-time win for the Ducks. Very impressed with what they were able to put up. And by the way, another interesting stat about the Oregon-Washington game. The line for that game opened, like, right after Oregon beat USC. It opened at 11.5. Oregon being favored by 11.5. It is now at -7. It has dropped 4.5 points in the matter of, like, 7 hours. So, I'm just saying, look out. Look out, Oregon. It's going to be a sketchy one for sure in Seattle, Washington next week. But obviously, it is Saturday night. You got to celebrate your win while you can. Big-time dub for the Oregon Ducks. Moving on to elsewhere in college football, our second biggest story of the week. Somehow, Kansas State went into Salt Lake City and just played an instant classic against the Utah Utes. Utah found a way to win this game 51-47. What? Like, this game was crazy. This game came out of nowhere. I had no idea. I knew this game was happening. I knew it was an important one for Utah. They had to win it to make the playoffs. Utah was a 17-point favorite in this game. This game was not supposed to be 51-47. I don't know what the over-under for this game was. I don't have that stat on me right now. But it sure as heck was not whatever 51 plus 47 is. Math department has got that at 98. The over-under sure as heck was not at 98. So, I mean, this game literally had everything. Both teams had over 550 yards of total offense in this game. Kansas State had 472 yards rushing, which is diabolical. There were big plays all game. I swear, every time I watched, like, I had my eyes on this game, either Joe Jackson was running for a 70-yard touchdown or Devon Dampier was running down the field. Literally big plays just over and over and over and over again in this football game. It was one of the best games all year, just straight up. There were also so many fumbles in this game. Like a lot of times the team that fumbled it recovered. But I swear, like it was just so chaotic. With all the big plays, all the fumbles, everything that was going on. There was a pick 2 in this game. I mean, of all things to happen in the college football game in week 13 between Kansas State and Utah, we had a pick 2. So just what a game. What an unreal game. I'm pulling up the stats for this game right now because I need to read them out. My iPad might die soon, so we might not have stats for much longer after this. But I have the drive chart for this game. And I'm a big drive chart guy. I think they really tell the story of a football game. But funnily enough, the game opened with Kansas State punt, Utah punt. So it started with 2 punts. And then we went Kansas State touchdown, Utah touchdown, Kansas State touchdown, Utah touchdown, Kansas State touchdown, Utah touchdown, Kansas State field goal. I know, disappointing. But literally in the blink of an eye, at the end of the first quarter and the end of the second quarter, touchdown, 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 field goal. Amazing football. It was just beautiful to watch. So entertaining. And then in the second half too, we had a very similar thing. Just so many scoring drives, so many big plays. Amazing college football game. Probably a top 5 game of the year so far in college football. So that was really, really fun to watch. Utah had to have this one if they wanted a chance to make the playoffs. They came into this week ranked 12th. You can argue whether or not they should be number 12, but it doesn't matter because they are number 12. I have them a little bit lower. I think I had them at 14 or 15 going into this week. But big time win for Utah because they keep their playoff chances alive. They play Colorado next week? No, they don't play Colorado. Who do they play next week? Stats and Info tells me that they play Kansas on the road next week. That's right. Big game. They got to win that one too if they want a shot to make the playoffs. This Utah rushing attack looked very scary today, I have to say. They were very difficult to stop. The jet motion, in my opinion, jet motion is one of the most difficult things to stop in all of college football. You see A&M run it all the time. You can see Alabama wants to run it so bad. It's just Ty Simpson isn't the most explosive player of all time. Western Kentucky ran it a lot against LSU today. They had a lot of success there. Auburn runs it a lot. That's what they tore up Georgia with in the first half of that game at Jordan Hare. And Utah ran it really, really effectively today with the uber athletic Devon Dampier jet motioning. I think it was Nate Johnson a lot. It was Bird Ficklin, who I never even knew existed before today a lot. So, I mean, the jet counter hit like 3 times for Devon Dampier. It is so beautiful to watch jet counter hit right down the middle. It is just, it appeases my football brain. And Dampier, because of that, had 94 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Wayshawn Parker on the ground had 100 yards on only 19 carries. So I was really impressed with what I saw from this Utah rushing attack. Nate Johnson averaged 8.3 yards per carry. Ficklin averaged 7.7 yards per carry. 5 rushing touchdowns total for Utah. That was very impressive. The problem with me all season long for Utah, ever since I watched the Utah-Texas Tech game, is I just straight up do not trust Devon Dampier to throw the ball down the field. Like I there's some guys in college football, quarterback-wise, that I just don't think are very good quarterbacks. And Dampier is one of them. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. He's a great football player. He's a great athlete, and he showcased that today. But I just don't trust him throwing the football. He was 18 for 33 today. But honestly, if it does not matter. Like if you can run the ball for 292 yards and you can do that consistently, you can get explosive plays through the run game. You don't need to be that great through the air. Like we saw that with Kansas State. Kansas State had over 570 yards of total offense, and Avery Johnson was 12 for 23 with 102 yards, a touchdown and an interception. He did like nothing, and they ran the ball for 472 yards. It didn't even matter. So if Utah can run the ball well, it doesn't matter if Devon Dampier is not very good because they're just not going to need him. He's not going to need to go out there and do much. And I think that's the key to success for Utah is run the ball so well that you take Dampier out of the game. And I know I'm hating a little too much because he was good today. He had 259 yards passing and 2 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. That's phenomenal. But to me, the only reason that a lot of those were open was A, run after catch. They had a lot of amazing run after catch opportunities in the game. Also, they were really great off play action, which is only possible if you can run the ball. So I saw a lot of that this game, and really, really good win for Utah just because they were able to pull it out. Also, shout out to Kansas State for playing inspirational. This is another thing that's so awesome about college football that some people still don't understand, that the higher ups in the sport still can't wrap their minds around. Is, I mean, you have a Kansas State team that going into this game 5-5, and they're 4-3 in the Big 12. Obviously, their season's over. They're not making the playoffs. They're fighting for a bowl game. I understand that. Bowl games don't mean anything anymore. No one really cares about making a bowl game. They're not making the playoffs, and yet, even despite that, they went out here and played one of their best games all season long. They played inspired football for 60 minutes. It was such an impressive effort. So big shout out to Kansas State. Joe Jackson, I mean, my goodness, it felt like he broke every record ever in this game. 293 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaged 12.2 yards per carry. Antonio Martin also went out there and averaged 17.8 yards per carry with 89 yards and a touchdown. And Avery Johnson had a couple plays where he just broke off. And that dude, as much as he struggles to throw the ball down the field, is athletic. So you cannot let that happen if you're playing Kansas State. And this was a fun team. I mean, 5-6 does not encapsulate this team. I don't know who they play next week, but it's not going to matter. They were a fun team to watch. We opened the year watching them against Iowa State, and they closed the year giving us an awesome game against Utah. So I really respect this Kansas State team. I will say, they did one thing. They exposed this Utah run defense. I mean, my goodness. Utah kind of thought they could play cover one, which is they just played man coverage with single high safety and loaded the box because they said Avery Johnson is really good with his legs. We're going to take those away from him by pressuring him. And they just couldn't tackle. Like, they loaded the box, and Kansas State creased them up, and then they just missed a bunch of tackles. So if you're going to miss tackles against really good teams, this is what's going to happen. So they cannot miss tackles in future games. Big shout out to Utah's linebackers for playing really poor. Linebacker play was not at a premium in this football game for either team, but especially not for Utah. They play at Kansas next week. If they drop that game, they're done. If they win that game, they give themselves a shot. We don't really know how good of a shot, but we'll see with Utah. They've just been a fascinating team all year to follow. Very, very under-talked. No one's talking about Utah, but they're still very much alive in the playoff race. And FPI, like the FPI rankings on ESPN, love Utah. So that's just another interesting thing. I got to hurry with this next one because my iPad's about to die, and I want to talk about this. In my opinion, the biggest result in the SEC, we're going to move on from the Utah game to the SEC now. Another team that nobody is talking about that got a huge win against Kentucky this week, the Vanderbilt Watch out for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt just blew out Kentucky 45-17. I'm telling you, Vandy is peaking right now. And if you don't believe me, just look at the stats of this game. My iPad just died, but I have them on top of my head. They had 604 yards of total offense against Kentucky. That is nuts. Diego Pavia, I don't have his stat line in front of me right now because my iPad just died. He had like 489 yards passing and 5 touchdowns in this football game. Crazy. This was a crazy offensive performance. This is one of the best offensive performances I have seen from a football team this year, especially in the SEC. And you might just say to yourself, oh, it's just Kentucky. Like, of course they put up these numbers. It's against a bottom feeder in the SEC. You cannot say that about Kentucky. Kentucky's defense has been really solid this year. Let's not forget, this Kentucky team nearly took Ole Miss to the wire. They nearly beat the Rebels. They should have beaten Texas. This Kentucky defense absolutely locked down Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian and what Texas was trying to do. Texas just hung 52 on Arkansas. So, and even after that, Kentucky just came off of playing Auburn on the road and Florida at home and allowed a combined 10 points in those games. And Vandy came in and put up 45 and 600 yards total offense. Holy cow. So, I mean, Vandy is good. They are so good. They had 29 first downs in this football game, and they were 3 for 9 on third down. What that basically means is that they converted 20 first downs, not on third. They like barely even had to play on third down in this game. They were just so efficient on first and second down. Kentucky could not stop them. They also held Kentucky 31 yards rushing. That was it. Kentucky could not move the football to save their lives. I have Kentucky's first half drive chart on my iPad, but my iPad's dead. But as far as I remember, I think they went like punt, interception, missed field goal, punt, or something like that. It was atrocious. And Vandy came out and had a defensive game plan, dominated. Diego Pavia came out and said, you know what? Okay, everyone was talking about me at the beginning of the year. Everyone was talking about me in the preseason saying, oh, this is Diego Pavia's season. He's going to go out, watch out, Alabama. And then he started the year really well. Everyone said, watch out, Alabama. They go into Alabama, you lose. And then you build up momentum. You beat LSU. You get game day in town, you beat Missouri. Now they got Texas. Everyone's saying, watch out, Texas. Diego Pavia's come to town. Look out. This team, they can make some noise. And then you lose to Texas, and everyone just drops you. Okay, well, he was fun. Diego Pavia was fun while he lasted. Clark Lee was fun while he lasted. But they got 2 losses now. They're back to being old Vanderbilt. We don't even have to talk about them. No, we are talking about Vanderbilt because this Vanderbilt team is scary, and Diego Pavia is good. I think Vandy, if they go on the road and beat Tennessee, they 100%, in my eyes, deserve to be in the playoffs, and they could make some noise in the playoffs. I mean, let's not forget, this Vandy team has beaten rosters that are very talented, and they've competed with teams that are very good. That Alabama game should have been 23-14, and it was only, Vanderbilt only lost that game, in my opinion, because Diego Pavia threw 2 red zone interceptions. If that hadn't happened, Vandy could have very well knocked off the Crimson Tide on the road. And then they lost to Texas by 3 points. That was it. So I really like this Vandy team. I think they could definitely make the playoffs. And again, no one's talking about them at all. And I wanted to link talking about this game with another blowout in the SEC that happened this week. Tennessee going on the road to beat Florida. So I'm going to talk about that next, and I'm going to link the two. But Tennessee 31 on the road at Florida. Florida only had 11 points, a 20-point victory for the Vols. This is the first time Tennessee has won in the Swamp since I was born. I have not been alive to watch Tennessee go into the Swamp and win against the Florida Gators. Last time they did it was 2003, and they did it by 20 points and absolutely dominated this game. And if you say to yourself, they didn't dominate this game, they only won by 20, you just didn't watch the game, okay? Because this was vintage Josh Heupel. Tennessee scored touchdowns on their first 4 drives. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. And Florida went punt, punt, punt. So it was literally 28-0 in the blink of an eye. I went to eat dinner with my grandparents. I had some amazing Publix fried chicken. It was glorious. I had some ribs, I think also from Publix. And then I went to turn on the TV, and it was 14-0. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. Let me switch the channel to BYU Cincinnati. And I switched back to Tennessee, Florida, and it was 28-0. So Heupel knew what he was doing. Shocker. He always knows what he's doing. And this was vintage Josh Heupel, not only because a lot of people that think of Tennessee offense, they think, oh yeah, they play really fast. They hit the deep balls all the time. 4 touchdowns to open the game. Joey Aguilar must have thrown for 200 yards in the first 2 drives, and they must have had 4 passing touchdowns just like that. That's not really how this game went. Tennessee had 248 yards rushing. That was really how they controlled things. They ran the ball really, really well. That's what Josh Heupel does. He has a staple of backs there. Deshaun Bishop, Star Thomas. Those guys are great. And Peyton Lewis, they run the ball really, really well. And that's what they did in this game. They controlled it, and they just got out to an early lead and didn't let Florida come back. DJ Lagway seems a little checked out. I'm not going to lie. I think that he is most likely going to enter the transfer portal. We don't know that for sure. It depends on who Florida gets as their new head coach, I think. But I think as of right now, Lagway will enter the transfer portal. Where he goes, who knows? Who knows where he's going to go? It could be anywhere. But he just seems very checked out right now. The Florida defense is very banged up, in my opinion, especially in the front 7. They just look injured out there. There's probably the injury chart for Florida. You can look up and find it. I bet it has a bunch of injuries in the front 7. I'm not entirely sure. I can't look it up right now because my iPad is dead. But this Florida team, yes, they're banged up and they're done. Jaden Baugh is still balling out there, though. Jaden Baugh could be an NFL stud. That guy is unreal. Both winning one-on-one against safety. He gets dirty yards like nobody's business. He's great out of the backfield at a 33-yard catch in this game. So, great win for Tennessee against a reeling Florida team. And that sets up an absolutely colossal game next week on Rocky Top when the Vanderbilt Commodores visit their in-state rivals, the Tennessee Volunteers, with their playoff hopes on the line. I cannot wait for this game. This game is going to be just a small slice of the beautiful pie of the rivalry weekend this year in college football. It's going to be unreal. And legitimately, Vandy, if they go on the road and beat this Tennessee team and they don't make the playoffs, I will riot the streets. I don't care if I'm in Atlanta. I don't care if I'm in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. I will be rioting the streets if that happens. And But what a game. I mean, if Tennessee wins this game, they're not making the playoffs. They already have 3 losses. If Vandy misses the playoffs this year, it's going to be so sad. I mean, for a lot of teams, like your Alabamas of the world, your Georgias of the world, Ohio States, Texas A&Ms, if you barely miss the playoffs, you're saying to yourself, darn it, we'll get them next year. It's fine. We'll be right back. We'll compete. We got this great recruiting class coming in. We're going to battle, and we're going to be right back there. Don't you worry. But with teams like Vanderbilt, that's not the case. You don't really get a lot of these opportunities to make the playoffs, to be relevant nationally like they've been this year. And if they go out and have one of their greatest years ever and they miss the playoffs barely, it's going to be heartbreaking for the program. It's going to be very sad. Clark Lee might leave this year. Diego Pavia will almost surely be gone after this season. So you really got to hope that they make the playoffs this year if you're a Vandy fan, or if you're just a big college football fan that loves the Vanderbilt Commodores, which I am. So huge game next week between Vanderbilt and Tennessee. They've probably announced what time it's going to be, but yet again, I can't check because my iPad died. So we'll have to see. But moving on from that game, from the state of Tennessee, over to the state of Oklahoma, where I have to mention this game. I'm literally forced to mention this game. But Oklahoma won 17-6 against Missouri. This was a terrible game. I hated this game so much. But you know what? I'm going to talk about the good first. I'll talk about the good. Once again, Oklahoma wins the turnover battle, which they are so good at doing. They're like the best in the country at winning the turnover battle. Missouri had 2 turnovers. Oklahoma had 0. John Mateer threw touchdowns today. That's unreal. In their last 2 wins against Tennessee and against Alabama, John Mateer had 0 touchdowns in both of those games, and he threw 2 against Missouri. So change of pace for John Mateer. Congratulations, Mr. Mateer, for throwing some touchdown passes. Who would have known? Who would have guessed that? Not me. I wouldn't have guessed it. This is also, what does that mean? I just wrote 3rd straight thing on my notes. Oh, I know what this is. This is the 3rd straight game that Oklahoma has won in the SEC where they have been outgained by their opponent. They were outgained by over 100 yards by Tennessee. They were outgained by nearly 200 yards by Alabama. And they were outgained by like 30 yards against Missouri. And they won all 3 of those games. Why, do you ask? They take care of the football and they force turnovers. It's what they do. Missouri really prides themselves on running the football. Hardy just got, what does that word say? What am I writing? Hardy got dunced. I don't even know what that means. He was smoked. Ahmad Hardy had like 17 carries for 57 yards. I think that's what it was. Completely negated from this game. Oklahoma's run defense is the best in the SEC. We saw that again today. Of course, this isn't the first time Ahmad Hardy has gotten smoked in a football game. Alabama did this. Auburn did this. Oklahoma also did this. So impressive from them. Jamal Roberts did get murdered in this game. 10 carries for 12 yards for Missouri's backup running back. Nothing. No room whatsoever against that Oklahoma front. Their run stunts are so good. Their big nose tackle with the hair. If you're an Oklahoma fan or you've watched Oklahoma fans, you know who I'm talking about. I don't know his name. I think he's like number 9. But he's the big old dude in the middle of that defensive line with the big old hair. That guy he's a monster. That dude will stuff runs all day long. So, good win for Oklahoma. The reason this game was so terrible was because of the second half. Like, the second half was awful. This game was 17-6 at halftime. The second half drive chart, I was going to talk about it. My iPad died. I think it had, like, punt, interception, punt, end of game. It was terrible. That was a terrible football game. It was so boring to watch in the second half. I mean, it was just awful. Beau Pribula is so bad. He is so bad. I've been saying this since the Alabama game when they played Alabama. He is so terrible. I cannot stress how terrible Beau Pribula is, in my opinion. Credit to him for recovering from that injury and playing in this game. Heck of an effort from the kid. Cannot throw the ball without sailing it. It is ridiculous. He's not very good. I don't like watching back quarterbacks. I had to watch Beau Pribula in this game. But yeah, I mean, sometimes when you're watching college football, you get Utah, Kansas State. You get a fantastic barn burner, super exciting game where you can just watch touchdown after touchdown after big play, and it's awesome. And then sometimes you flip the channel and you have to watch Oklahoma and Missouri rock fight each other for the last 30 minutes of the game and decide who was going to win and who was going to lose by just seeing who wanted to lose least. That's what this game felt like to me. But Oklahoma did win. I can't hate on it. They're 9-2 in the SEC. I picked them in the preseason to make the playoffs, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And here they are with a very straightforward path to make the playoffs. I'm not saying I'm a college football prophet because I also picked Clemson and Penn State to make the playoffs, but I did get this one right. So I want all the respect but none of the blame. That's what I want. So that's what I got from Oklahoma. They got to play LSU next week. Of course, LSU almost lost to Western Kentucky today, so they should win that one. If they win, they're in. If they lose, they're probably out, but we'll see. So, but I mean, LSU is still very talented, so Oklahoma's still got to play a good football game to win against LSU. But we'll have to see what they do against that. That'll be next week. Another huge game, and just huge game after huge game next week. It's going to be legendary. Next game I want to talk about. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame absolutely dismantled and just carnaged all over the Syracuse Orange. I mean, this game was just an absolute bloodbath, and that is putting it lightly. Notre Dame won 70-7. There was no need Notre Dame to do this. I mean, you're playing another football team out there. This is a Power 4 ACC football team that has played good games this year that you just dismembered, and you left Syracuse bloody and alone on the side of the road with no one to help them. This was terrible. This was a terrible game. My goodness. They did not need to do all that, legitimately. Notre Dame had more points than passing yards. They put up 70 points and had 67 yards passing. How does that happen? That's like a 1940s football stat. My goodness. They were up in this game 21-0 before their offense touched the ball because Syracuse decided to throw a pick six and then get punt returned on and then throw another pick six and then punt it again. So Notre Dame's offense got the ball with 23 seconds left in the first quarter, up 21-0. Just crazy game. And then after they got the ball, they scored 4 straight touchdowns. So Notre Dame's defense and special teams scored 3 touchdowns to open the game, and then their offense got the ball, and they scored touchdowns on 4 straight drives. So it was literally, 7 times? It was 49-0 in like the first half, just in the blink of an eye. This was the biggest monstrosity of a blowout I've seen in a long time. And I'm talking about like since Oregon beat Oklahoma State 69-3. And even then, I don't know if that equals this. So, crazy win for Notre Dame. They could definitely win the national championship. I've been saying this for a while. In my opinion, power rankings-wise, the 4 teams that I think realistically have national title contending hopes, and I'd be shocked if any of these 4 teams don't win the national title. I think Indiana has very realistic national title chances. I think Ohio State does. I think Notre Dame does, and I think Georgia does. If the national champion is outside of those 4 teams, I would be very surprised. But all that being said, big win for Notre Dame. They look fantastic. If they can stay healthy, watch out for them in the playoffs. They haven't played a good team in a while. But, I mean, when you're beating Syracuse 70-7, that's very impressive as well. How about the ACC? ACC had a very interesting night. Pittsburgh got a big-time win over Georgia Tech. Poor Georgia Tech, man. I guess they're not quite at it. Maybe if they beat Georgia, they could get an at-large bid. I wouldn't give it to them, but maybe someone will. But I really like this Georgia Tech team. Haynes King's my favorite player in college football. You all know that. I will be cheering for the Yellow Jackets in that game just because I love Haynes King, and I love cheering for the underdogs. And this was a sad ending to the year. They looked like they were going to make the ACC championship game. They just needed to beat Pitt to do that. And they tried, man. They were down 28-0, and they brought it back to like 35-28, I think was the score at one point. And Pittsburgh broke off a huge run to win the game. Huge win for Pittsburgh, by the way. I don't know why I'm just sob-storing about Georgia Tech. Pat Narduzzi called it out. He said before the Notre Dame game, he said, we don't even need to win this one. We're focused on Pittsburgh playing Georgia Tech and then playing Miami. If we can win those 2 games, we're in the ACC championship game. That's our path to the playoffs. And they've already won one of them. So big-time win for Pittsburgh. They did it without much of an impact from Desmond Reed. I don't remember if he was injured in this game or if he just didn't play very much. Could have been either one. I'm not quite sure. But Pittsburgh does play Miami next week. If they win that and either SMU or Virginia loses their games, Pittsburgh is into the ACC championship game. Speaking of SMU and Virginia had a bye this week. They play Virginia Tech next week. If they win, they are in to the ACC championship game. And SMU, how about SMU? Again, a game that nobody was talking about because when you go on ESPN to look at the NCAAF scores, it automatically sorts it by top 25. and the SMU Louisville game's not there. So I bet a lot of you didn't know that SMU beat Louisville 38-6. If you didn't know that, that's okay. That is okay. That is why you were watching these videos, so we can inform you about such things. But SMU absolutely dismantled Louisville. Louisville's a good football team. And Jeff Brom, their squad just had no chance out there. SMU is a win on the road at Cal away from back-to-back ACC title appearances. If you said that to me 5 years ago, I would just keep walking down the street and call you an insane person. I mean, just listen to that sentence again. Imagine this is 10 years ago, and listen to this sentence. If SMU goes on the road and beats Cal, they will make the ACC championship game for the second time in a row. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Rest in peace, Pac-12. So the ACC comes down to that. If Virginia and SMU both win, they are in the playoffs. Or not in the playoffs, but they are in the ACC championship game. If one of them loses and Pitt wins, they are in the ACC championship game. And then I think if they somehow both lose and Pittsburgh loses to Miami, maybe Miami makes it. I know SMU might be kind of guaranteed to make it. Well, no, because if SMU wins, or if SMU loses and Pitt wins, then SMU is out. I don't know. It's down to those 4 teams. It's down to Virginia, SMU, Pittsburgh, and Miami. It will most likely be Virginia and SMU. If they take care of business, it will be that. Miami's got a shot, but it probably won't happen. But we'll see. Winner, of course, of the ACC championship game is pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs. Miami just beat Virginia Tech. If they can skull-drug Pitt, even if they don't make the ACC championship game, they still have a chance to be an at-large team for sure. I don't remember I think they're number 13 right now. So they're right outside looking in. You can agree or disagree with as much as you want for their number 13 rating, but it does not matter. They are still number 13. And we'll see if that changes at all in the next college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night. Also in the American Conference, I think the Group of 5 team should come from the American Conference. James Madison did survive today against Washington State. They're a good team too. But I just think the American Conference is more talented. North Texas won, Tulane won, and Navy had a bye week. Those are the 3 teams that are competing in that conference right now. North Texas plays Temple at home on Friday. Tulane plays Charlotte at home on Thursday. And Navy the North Texas game is on Saturday. Tulane is on Friday. And Navy is at Memphis on Thursday. That's what it is. So those are 3 big games to decide who wins the American Conference. Also, I wrote here on my notes, mention Texas and Michigan. I had to mention them. Texas struggled with Arkansas. If you're surprised by that, then you haven't been watching Arkansas football this year. They're a really good team. They've just gotten a little bit unlucky, and their defense is pretty hot garbage. And Texas proved that. Arch Manning had 6 total touchdowns. I think first Texas quarterback to ever throw, run, and pass for a touchdown. Or no, that doesn't make any sense. To pass for a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown. First Texas player to ever do such a thing. And Michigan took care of business against Maryland. And the reason I'm bringing these games up is because I'm glad they won. I'm glad they won because this sets up a huge game in the SEC with Texas and Texas A&M, and a huge game in the Big Ten between Michigan and Ohio State. Not that those games wouldn't be huge if they had lost. It's just bigger because now both of those teams still have a chance to make the playoffs. However obscure it may be, they still have a chance to make the playoff. Also, shout out to all the teams that took care of business this week against lesser opponents. I'm talking Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas A&M, all the other SEC teams that played weak opponents. It's terrible and it's weak, and this is the last time we have to sit through it. But it is worth noting that you took care of business. So I just have to throw it out there. Job well done, those teams. Now, the last thing I'm going to do on the Instant Reaction podcast is just to give a little quick preview to the college football Week 14 rivalry week games. Now, I'm doing this for my Stellar Shenanigans rankings from last week because I don't have all the games in front of me right now because, once again, my iPad is dead. But Indiana plays Purdue. That game should be fun. We got Ohio State, Michigan. Big noon kickoff. That should be a phenomenal game. Winner of that game most likely makes it to the Big Ten Championship, depending on the Oregon tiebreaker. I don't know what it is. But that's going to be a huge game, of course. The game, one of the biggest games of the year, every single season. Once again, so much on the line in that football game. First, real test Ohio State has had in a while. So that'll be really, really fun to watch. Georgia plays Georgia Tech on Friday. The Friday slate is phenomenal. We got Lane Kiffin and all his drama going up against Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. If Mississippi State wins that game, does Ole Miss miss the playoffs? Who knows? I'm just floating it out there. It's a possibility. And then we get Georgia Tech. Huge game. It always is. It was phenomenal last year. It's in the Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta this year. Then we get A&M and Texas. Oh, we've been waiting for this game for so long. First time A&M has played at Texas in forever. And there's so much on the line in that game, too. We got Alabama with their playoff hopes on the line at Auburn in the Iron Bowl. 6:30 ABC kickoff on ABC. I already said that. What is wrong with me? It's late. In Jordan Hare Stadium, we know that place is voodoo. That's going to be a crazy game. It always is. Oklahoma plays LSU with their playoff chances on the line. Miami's got Pittsburgh. That's a big game. Tennessee's got Vanderbilt. I just talked about how colossal a game that was a couple minutes ago, or probably like 20 minutes ago at this point. I don't know. I didn't really keep time when I'm doing this. Other big games. We got all the ACC stuff that's going on. And Oregon plays Washington. That's another big one. There's just going to be so much good college football this next weekend. I cannot wait for it. On Thursday night, it's going to be awesome with Memphis and Navy. And there's going to be great college basketball on Thursday night, too. And then Friday night's going to be, or all Friday, Black Friday is going to be sensational. Saturday is going to be awesome from start to finish. This is peak college football that we're about to witness, and I cannot wait for it. Regular season finale is always unbelievable, and I'm going to be previewing it all throughout the week. This week's going to be a big week on the podcast, so stay tuned if you want to hear me talk about sports, because I love talking about it, and if you want to listen to me talk about it, then I would love that too. And with that, thanks so much for watching. If you take one thing away from this podcast, it is that Jesus loves you, and that God does exist, and he is patient with you, and it's not okay to mess up. It's not okay to sin. It's not okay to choose the devil over God, but God is all powerful. He's all loving, and he's all merciful. He will always forgive you if you come back to him. And if you don't believe me, just check out Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 4. It's a great one. And I mean, Jesus died for your sins. He died for our sins, but if it was just you that's watching this, that was on the planet, Jesus would have done all of his suffering for you. That's how much he loves you. And with that, thanks so much for watching again, folks. God bless. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. And I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.